I'm a barista in Perth, and last Tuesday this American bloke walks into our cafe at 8 in the morning demanding a medium drip coffee. I told him we don't do drip here, showed him the espresso menu with flat whites and long blacks. He squinted at it like I'd handed him hieroglyphics and said, "What is this, Europe? Just give me regular coffee, the kind everyone drinks." I explained we're an espresso-based culture, Italian influence and all that. He waved his hand and said, "Listen buddy, coffee's coffee. I've been to 17 countries and nobody makes it this complicated. Just brew some beans and put it in a cup." His mate beside him nodded along like he'd just solved world hunger. We're standing there with award-winning baristas and he's treating us like we invented confusion. Eventually made him a long black, which he complained tasted too strong for normal coffee. My sister manages a boutique in Melbourne and an American couple came in last month asking where the sales tax gets added. She explained the price you see is the price you pay, GST's already included. The woman actually laughed and said, "That can't be right, we need to know the real price before tax." My sister pointed at a $50 tag and said that's $50, nothing gets added at checkout. The husband pulls out his phone and starts explaining how American transparency lets consumers know the tax breakdown, how it's more honest because you see what the government takes. Spent 20 minutes insisting Australian pricing was designed to trick tourists into spending more. His wife kept asking, "But when does the tax part show up?" They bought nothing and left a 1-star review saying the store had shady pricing practices. I work the ticket counter at a cinema in Adelaide, and this American family asked me last week when the movie actually starts. I said 7:30, that's when the film begins. The dad laughed and said, "No, I mean the real start time, after all the trailers and commercials." I repeated 7:30 is when you see the movie. He got this patronizing smile and explained that in America, if a ticket says 7:30, you've got 15 to 20 minutes of ads first, so nobody shows up on time. "It's just how theaters work everywhere," he said. "We're not amateurs." Made this whole speech about how Americans have it figured out, arrive fashionably late, don't waste time sitting through previews. I told him our session starts exactly at the time printed on the ticket, maybe 1 or 2 short ads maximum. He ignored me completely, turned to his kids and said, "We'll grab ice cream first, plenty of time." They showed up at 7:45 to a locked door, came back demanding a refund for our false advertising. I'm a hotel receptionist in Sydney and an American businessman checked in last month insisting he needed to tip everyone immediately. I explained we don't have tipping culture here, our staff earn proper wages. He actually got offended and said, "That's impossible, service workers everywhere need tips to survive. It's basic economics." Pulled out his wallet and tried handing me a $20 note, said he won't be part of exploiting workers. I politely refused, explained we're paid $24 an hour minimum, don't rely on gratuities. He looked at me like I was lying to save face and said, "Look man, I get it, you're too proud to accept. But I've traveled enough to know how the world works." Left cash on the counter anyway and walked off. His whole stay he kept forcing money on housekeeping, porters, everyone, getting frustrated when they handed it back. Wrote a review saying our hotel had a bizarre anti-tip policy that hurt workers, suggested future guests bring extra cash to compensate for our backwards system. My cousin works at a pub in Brisbane and an American bloke ordered a beer last week then sat there waiting. After 5 minutes he walked back up and asked where his drink was. She pointed at his table where she'd already delivered it. He said, No, I'm waiting for the waiter to bring it." She explained he'd watched her carry it over 30 seconds after he ordered. He goes, "But I haven't paid yet, that's not how restaurants work." Pulled out his phone showing her some article about how American restaurants bring your bill at the end, never before you eat. She said, "Mate, you pay when you order at a pub, that's standard." He started this lecture about business practices and customer service flow, how collecting money before service delivery violates basic hospitality principles. "This is why American service is famous worldwide," he said. "We understand the customer experience." Refused to believe this was normal until 3 locals at the next table confirmed it. Kept muttering about inefficient systems the whole night. "I run a small post office in Hobart, and this American woman came in yesterday needing to mail a package to Melbourne. Quoted her $18 for express. She goes, 'Okay, but what's that in real money?' I said 18 Australian dollars, that's what it costs. She sighed and said, 'I mean converted to USD so I know what I'm actually spending.' I told her she's in Australia, she'll pay Australian dollars. She got this look like I was being deliberately difficult and explained that when she travels, she needs to mentally convert everything to dollars to budget properly. 'Can't you just tell me the American price?' she asked. 'Like 40% less, right? You guys use monopoly money anyway.' Spent 10 minutes trying to make me calculate exchange rates because apparently that's my job now. Eventually her husband intervened with his phone's converter app, but she complained the whole time about how confusing we make simple transactions. I'm a tour guide in Cairns, and an American couple joined our rainforest walk last month carrying practically nothing. It's a 6-hour trek, 34 degrees, high humidity. I asked where their water bottles were. The wife said, "Oh, there'll be places to buy drinks along the way, right?" I told her we're going into wilderness, no shops, no facilities, she needs to bring supplies. She looked genuinely shocked and said, "That's crazy, what if someone gets thirsty? There's always somewhere to buy stuff." Her husband agreed, said in America you're never more than 10 minutes from a gas station or rest stop, that's just basic infrastructure. I explained Australia's got massive stretches of pure nature, no services anywhere. He laughed it off and said, "Come on, someone's selling something everywhere. That's capitalism." They refused to take extra water from our emergency supplies, completely convinced we were exaggerating. 2 hours in there dehydrated and furious, demanding to know why nobody warned them. His wife actually said, "This is dangerous, you can't just take people into the middle of nowhere." My brother manages a restaurant in the Gold Coast, and an American family sat down last week, grabbed menus, then just sat there staring at us. After 15 minutes, he walked over asking if they needed help. The dad goes, "Yeah, we're waiting for our waiter." My brother said, "Mate, you order at the counter, it's written on every table." The man actually scoffed and said, "No offense, but that's not a real restaurant then, that's a cafeteria. Real dining means table service." Started explaining how American establishments understand hospitality, how making customers walk up to order is disrespectful. My brother pointed at the signs, the queue of people ordering, the whole setup. The guy insisted this was just for takeaway customers, surely sit-down dining worked normally. "We're not paying restaurant prices for fast food service," he announced. Took 20 more minutes of back and forth before they reluctantly ordered, left a passive-aggressive review about our self-service scam. I work at a market stall in Fremantle, and an American tourist asked me last month why our oranges cost $7 per kilo. I said because that's what oranges cost, they're in season and locally grown. She goes, "But a kilo is like 2 pounds, right? So you're charging $14 per pound? That's insane." I tried explaining kilogram pricing, but she cut me off saying, "In America we pay $2 per pound maximum. You're clearly overcharging tourists." Pulled out her phone calculating conversions, getting more offended with each number. Her husband joined in, both of them insisting Australian produce prices prove we're getting ripped off by our own farmers. "You should protest these rates," she said seriously. "Demand fair prices like Americans do." I told her our minimum wage is double yours, everything costs proportionally more. She called that socialist propaganda and said someone's definitely exploiting us. bought nothing and walked off shaking her heads at our ignorance. I'm a waiter in Canberra and an American couple flagged me down last week, absolutely fuming. The woman goes, "We've been sitting here 15 minutes and nobody's offered us water." I apologized, asked if they'd like still or sparkling. She looked stunned and said, "You charge for water? That's illegal." I explained tap water's free if they want it, but bottled water costs money obviously. Her husband actually stood up and said, No, free water with ice is standard at any restaurant. It's a health requirement." Started this whole lecture about dehydration lawsuits and mandatory water service, how American restaurants automatically bring water because they understand customer right. I brought them free tap water in glasses. The wife looked horrified and said, "We're not drinking that, we need sealed bottles so we know it's safe." When I said bottles cost $6, they filed a complaint with management about our extortionate water prices and health code violations. I manage a cafe in Alice Springs and an American bloke ordered a flat white last week, then immediately sent it back. Said it was wrong, made incorrectly, demanded a replacement. I asked what was wrong with it. He goes, "It's not even full, look." Pointed at the foam showing through his glass. I explained that's microfoam, that's how flat whites are made, the whole point of the drink. He got genuinely angry and said, "In America when you order a latte you get a full cup of coffee. This is like 2/3 coffee and the rest is air." Refused to accept that Australian coffee culture differs from American standard. Insisted our baristas were undertrained and using foam to stretch their milk supplies and cheat customers. "I've had real lattes," he said. "This is basically a cappuccino." Demanded his money back because we served him incorrect coffee and tried to pass it off as legitimate. Left saying he'd warn other Americans about our cafe scam on TripAdvisor. I'm a lifeguard at Bondi Beach, and an American bloke came up last week pointing at the red and yellow flags. He goes, "Why do you restrict where people can swim? This is a public beach." I explained that's where we patrol. Outside the flags has rips and currents that'll drag you out to sea. He actually laughed and said, "Come on mate, I've been swimming my whole life. Ocean's an ocean." Started this whole speech about how American beaches trust people to assess their own risk, how we're treating adults like children. His girlfriend agreed, said lifeguards in California just supervise, they don't dictate where you're allowed to go. I told him 3 people drowned here last year swimming outside the flags. He said, "That's because they didn't know what they're doing. I grew up in Florida, I understand currents." Went out past the flags anyway. 10 minutes later we're pulling him out of a rip, exhausted and panicking. Soon as he caught his breath he said, "You guys need better warning signs about those things." I work at a pharmacy in Melbourne and an American woman came in last month with a prescription from her doctor back home. Asked me to fill it for antibiotic. I explained I can't accept foreign prescriptions, she needs to see an Australian GP first. She looked stunned and said, "But it's the same medicine, it's not like drugs change country to country." I told her that's the law, prescriptions aren't internationally valid. She got frustrated and said, "This is insane, I'm not sick enough to waste time at a doctor. In America we understand convenience, you can transfer prescriptions anywhere." Started insisting that modern medicine should be standardized globally, that requiring local doctors for existing prescriptions proves Australia's behind on healthcare efficiency. I suggested a walk-in clinic nearby. She said, "I already saw a real doctor in America, why do I need permission from an Australian one?" Left angry, posted online about Australia's backward pharmacy regulations blocking access to basic medication for tourists. I'm a bus driver in Darwin and an American tourist got on last month and asked how much to Uluru. I said, "Mate, Uluru's 1,400 kilometers south. This bus goes around the city." He laughed and said, "Yeah, I know it's far, but how many stops until we're there?" I repeated that Uluru's in the middle of the country, completely different region. He pulled out a map showing me how both places were in Northern Territory and said, "Look, same territory, same bus system. Just tell me which route." Started explaining how in America, territories have integrated transit systems, you can bus across entire states. I told him he'd need a 20-hour drive or a flight, no bus goes there. He got frustrated and said, "That's ridiculous, what's the point of public transport if it doesn't go anywhere? America figured this out decades ago." Insisted I was withholding information about long-distance routes. Eventually I showed him charter company brochures. He walked off muttering about Australia's backward infrastructure failing basic connectivity standard. My uncle drives taxis in Perth and picked up an American couple last week who asked him to take them to Sydney. He said that's 4,000 kilometers, mate, you'll need a plane. The woman actually laughed and said, "Come on, we know Australians exaggerate distances. It's probably like 6 hours, right?" My uncle showed them the map, the scale, the actual distance. The husband goes, "Okay, but Perth and Sydney are both major cities on the coast. In America, you can drive city to city in a day, that's just normal." Started citing examples of American road trips, acting like Australia should function identically. My uncle explained the continent's almost as big as the United States with way less infrastructure. The guy said, "But there's only like 4 big cities here, they must be close together. You don't need 50 states to figure out efficiency." Refused the trip and later tweeted about Australian taxi drivers who won't do interstate fares, calling it lazy service culture. I work at a car rental in Cairns and an American family wanted to drive to Melbourne last month. I said that's 3,000 kilometers, takes multiple days. The dad goes, "That's fine, we've got 3 days before our flight." I explained, "Mate, 3 days means minimal sleep, dangerous driving, nothing to see but highway." He looked confused and said, "But it's all one country, how far could it possibly be?" Pulled out his phone showing me the map, insisted it looked like 12 hours maximum. I showed him the scale indicator, the actual driving time, the fuel stops required. He said, "This is insane, why aren't there better roads? In America we have interstates that connect everything efficiently." His wife agreed, said Australia needed to invest in proper highway systems instead of leaving tourists stranded. Tried explaining our population density and geography. He cut me off saying, "Excuses. America built highways across deserts and mountains, you guys just don't prioritize infrastructure." Rented the car anyway, called 2 days later from somewhere in New South Wales, exhausted and angry, demanding to know why we didn't warn them properly. I'm a ranger at Kakadu National Park, and an American couple hiked out to Twin Falls last week without supplies. It's a 2-hour walk each way, 38 degrees, crocodile country. They showed up at the falls with one small water bottle between them and sandals. I radioed them from the checkpoint asking if they had proper gear. The man said, "We're fine, we'll pick up supplies at the visitor center there." I said, "Mate, there's no visitor center, no facilities, nothing but wilderness." He laughed and said, "Come on, any tourist spot has amenities. That's tourism 101. I explained this is raw outback, you bring everything you need." The woman got on the radio and said, "This is really irresponsible, you can't advertise a destination without providing services. In America, every national park has lodges, restaurants, gift shops." I told her Kakadu's bigger than Israel, most of it's untouched wilderness. She said, "That's just bad planning. Who manages nature without infrastructure?" They got halfway back, ran out of water, needed emergency rescue. Blamed the park service for inadequate tourist safety measures and not posting clear warnings about the lack of facilities. I'm a flight attendant on the Melbourne-LA route, and an American passenger asked me last month why Australian flight crews don't accept tip. I explained we're salaried employees, tipping's not part of our culture. She said, but I want to show appreciation for good service. I thanked her but said our wages cover service quality. She pulled out a 20 and insisted, saying in America this is how you acknowledge excellence. I politely declined again. She looked genuinely upset and told me I was being rude by refusing her gratitude, that I was making her feel bad for trying to be generous. Her husband said, "This is what's wrong with countries that don't tip. People don't appreciate kindness anymore." They complained to my supervisor that I rejected their gesture, wrote to the airline saying Australian flight attendants need customer service training to learn gracious acceptance. I'm standing there with 15 years experience, professionally trained, and they're convinced I need American lessons in basic manners. Look, Americans aren't bad tourists, they're just absolutely certain their way is universal. They'll explain your own country to you with the confidence of someone who's never been wrong. It's not malicious, it's just this unshakable belief that if America does it one way, that's how the world works. And when reality disagrees, reality's clearly broken.